Have you ever understood English perfectly in your head, but when it's your turn to speak, your mind goes completely blank? Like everything you learn just disappears at the exact moment you need it. Have you ever stood there in silence while someone waits for your answer, your heart beating faster, your brain searching for words that you know exist, but you just cannot pull them out? Have you ever walked away from that moment feeling embarrassed, replaying the conversation again and again, thinking, I knew what to say? Why didn't I say it? Have you ever felt that frustration of spending years learning grammar, memorizing vocabulary, watching videos, but still not being able to say one simple sentence naturally in real life? Have you ever started doubting yourself, thinking maybe you are not confident enough? Maybe you are not talented enough. Maybe English is just not for you. Even though deep down you know you have tried so hard, have you ever avoided speaking not because you don't understand, but because you are afraid of that silence, that awkward moment, that feeling of failing again? If that is you, then listen carefully, because this is not your fault. The problem is not your vocabulary. It is not your grammar. It is not your intelligence. The real problem is that you were never given a clear daily system to train speaking the right way. You were told to learn more but never shown what to actually practice every single day to build real speaking ability, and that is why nothing changed. But today that changes, because you are about to discover 10 simple things that you must work on every day. Not theory, not complicated methods, just real actions that train your brain to speak. And if you follow this, you will finally understand why you were stuck and what actually moves you forward. So stay with me, because this might be the moment everything starts to shift. If that feels familiar, if you recognize even a small part of that experience, then you need to hear this very clearly, because the reason you are stuck has nothing to do with your ability. It has nothing to do with your intelligence, and it has nothing to do with how long you have studied. The real reason is that you were never trained with a daily speaking system that actually builds fluency in real life. Think about how you learned English. You were told to study grammar, to memorize vocabulary, to do exercises, to understand reading passages, to listen and try to catch meaning. But none of that directly trained you to speak in real time. None of that trained your brain to respond instantly under pressure. None of that trained your mouth to produce English without thinking. So when you enter a real conversation, your brain does exactly what it was trained to do. It slows down. It translates, it searches for rules, it tries to be perfect, and that is why you freeze. Not because you don't know English, but because your brain is using the wrong process for speaking, and this is the part nobody explained to you, so you assumed it was your fault. You thought you needed more knowledge, so you studied more. You thought you needed more grammar, so you reviewed more rules. You thought you just needed more time, so you kept repeating the same cycle. But nothing changed because the system itself was incomplete. And it taught you how to understand English, but not how to use English, and there is a huge difference between those two skills. Understanding is passive, speaking is active, and active skills can only be built through daily action, not passive learning. And this is where everything starts to change, because once you realize it is not about how much you know, but about how you train every day, you stop blaming yourself, and you start looking for a system that actually works in real life, and that is exactly what the next part will show you. 10 simple daily actions that finally bridge the gap between understanding and speaking, and if you apply them consistently, you will start to feel something you may have never felt before. Real fluency beginning to form naturally inside you. I want to share something personal with you. Because I was exactly in the same place you are right now. I could understand English very well. I could watch videos, I could read articles, I could even predict what someone was going to say next. But the moment I had to speak, everything collapsed. My mind went blank. My voice slowed down, and I felt like I lost control of everything I knew. And for a long time I thought the problem was my English level. So I did what everyone does. I studied more grammar, I memorized more vocabulary. I tried harder to be perfect, but the result was always the same. I could understand more, but I still could not speak when it mattered, and that was the most frustrating part, because I was putting in effort, but not getting real-life results, And one day, I realized something very uncomfortable but very important. And I was training the wrong skill every single day. I was practicing understanding, not speaking. I was practicing recognition, not reaction, and that is why nothing changed. And when I finally stopped trying to be perfect and started focusing on small daily speaking actions, something shifted. I stopped thinking in terms of study English and started thinking in terms of train English, and instead of long study sessions, I started doing short daily practices that forced me to speak immediately, even if it was messy, even if it felt uncomfortable, even if it wasn't correct. And slowly I noticed something surprising. I started reacting faster in conversations. I stopped freezing as often. I didn't translate as much in my head. And for the first time, I felt like English was becoming something I could actually use, not just understand. And that is when I realized the real breakthrough is not learning more English. It is changing what you do every single day with English. Because fluency is not built in big moments. It is built in small, repeated actions. And that is exactly why I want to show you the 10 things that changed everything for me. 10 simple daily habits that train your brain to speak naturally in real life, not perfectly, but effectively. And if you start applying them, you will understand why you were stuck for so long, and more importantly, how you can finally move forward in a real way. So here is the core idea that changes everything. Fluency is not something you achieve by learning more English. Fluency is something you build by doing the right things every single day. And the reason most people stay stuck is because they treat English like a subject instead of a skill. They study it, they analyze it, they collect information, but they don't train it. And speaking is not knowledge. Speaking is a reflex. It is a reaction. It is something your brain and mouth must do automatically without hesitation. And that is exactly why you need a daily system, not more theory, not more rules, but a simple set of actions that train your speaking ability in real time. And that is what the 10 things you must work on every day is about. It is not about studying harder. It is about training smarter. It is about building a routine that forces your brain to stop translating and start responding, because every time you respond in English instead of thinking in your native language first, you are literally rewiring your brain for fluency. And this is not magic. It is repetition. It is consistency. It is exposure to real speaking patterns every day. And the mistake most learners make is they wait for motivation. They wait for perfect conditions. They wait until they feel ready. But fluency does not come from waiting. It comes from repetition under imperfect conditions. And that is why these 10 actions are designed to be simple, fast, and realistic. You don't need hours. You don't need perfect focus. You just need consistency, because small daily actions compound into real speaking ability over time. And once you understand this, you stop asking, "How long will it take?" And you start asking, "What am I doing today?" And that shift alone is powerful enough to change your entire learning path. That's because now you are no longer someone who studies English. You are someone who trains English every day. And that identity change is where real fluency begins. So let's break down exactly what those 10 daily actions are and how they rebuild your speaking ability from zero reaction speed to natural real-life communication, step by step, simple, practical, and immediately usable. Now let me make this extremely real for you, so you don't just understand the idea, you actually see how it works in daily life. Because the biggest mistake people make is they think fluency comes from studying more, but fluency actually comes from doing small speaking actions every single day. So let's break it down in a very simple way. Imagine your day starts, and instead of opening your phone and passively scrolling, you do your first action. You listen to a very short English sentence and immediately repeat it out loud, not perfectly, just quickly. For example, you hear, "I'm a bit tired today," and you don't think, you just say, "I'm a bit tired today," again and again. This is action 1, reaction training. Then action 2 is you take one sentence and you change one word. For example, "I'm a bit tired today" becomes, "I'm a bit busy today," or "I'm a bit happy today." You are not studying grammar, you are training flexibility. Then action 3 is shadowing a short clip for just 1 minute. Not watching, not analyzing, just listening and repeating immediately, following the rhythm, following the speed, letting your mouth move before your brain overthinks. Then action 4 is speaking to yourself out loud about your day in very simple English, not perfect sentences, just real expression like, I go work today, I meet friend, I feel good. The goal is not accuracy, the goal is flow. Then action 5 is learning just one useful phrase and using it immediately in 3 different ways. For example, what do you think? You try, what do you think about this? What do you think if we go now? What do you think is better? You are building patterns, not memorizing rules. Then action 6 is listening to one real sentence from native speech and repeating it with emotion, not flat, but like a real speaker, because speaking is not only words, it is sound, rhythm, energy, then action. 7 is quick self-questioning. You ask yourself simple questions like, what am I doing now? What do I want? And you answer immediately in English without stopping. Then action 8 is fixing one small sentence from your mistake, not correcting everything, just one improvement, then repeating it 5 times out loud until it feels natural. Then action 9 is short speaking exposure. You record yourself speaking for 30 seconds without stopping, even if it is messy. Even if you hesitate, you keep going, because this trains courage, and finally, action. 10 is reflection in English. Just 1 or 2 sentences like, today I practice speaking. I feel better than yesterday. Simple, real, consistent. And when you look at all 10 actions together, you realize something powerful. None of them require advanced English. None of them require perfect grammar. All of them require one thing only, daily action. And this is where transformation happens, because instead of consuming English, you are producing English. Instead of understanding only, you are using. And over time, your brain stops treating English like a subject and starts treating it like a tool. And that is when real fluency begins to form naturally, not from pressure, not from memorization, but from daily repetition of simple speaking actions that slowly rewire how you think and respond in real conversations. Now, the most important question is not what the 10 things are, but how you actually make them part of your real life without feeling overwhelmed or quitting after a few days, because most people fail. Not because the method is hard, but because they try to do everything at once with too much pressure. So let me simplify this for you into a real system that actually works. You don't need to do all 10 actions perfectly every day. You only need to follow one rule. Consistency over intensity. That means even if you do a small version of each action, it still counts, because fluency is built through repetition, not perfection. So here is how you structure your day in a very simple way. In the morning, you start with 1 or 2 speaking reactions, just short sentences, immediate repetition, no thinking, no pressure, just wake up your speaking brain. During the day, you do 1 shadowing session for 1 to 3 minutes, not long, just enough to connect your listening and speaking together, and at any random moment you pick one phrase and try to use it out loud or in your mind in English. That's it. No complex schedule, no strict rules, just small speaking triggers throughout your day. And in the evening, you take 1 minute to reflect in English. Very simple sentences about your day. And the key here is not how much you do, but how often you do it. Because every time you repeat this process, you are telling your brain one message. English is not something I study, it is something I use, and over time this message becomes your new identity. And once that identity is formed, speaking stops feeling like a test and starts feeling like a normal action, just like walking or talking in your native language. And this is why consistency is everything. Because even 5 minutes a day, done every day, will beat 1 long study session done once a week. And the reason is simple. Your brain learns through repetition, not intensity. So instead of trying to be perfect, your goal is to show up daily and train small speaking actions. And if you do that, you will slowly notice something very real happening. You will hesitate less. You will think faster. You will start forming sentences more naturally. And you will begin to feel that English is becoming part of you, not something outside of you that you have to memorize. And that is the real system, simple, repeatable, and designed for real-life speaking, not classroom knowledge. Now I want to take everything from theory to real action, because if you leave this video without actually using your voice, nothing will change. So let's do something very simple but very powerful together right now. Don't think, don't prepare, just follow. I want you to imagine you are in a real conversation and someone says to you, "How was your day?" And instead of freezing, instead of translating, you respond immediately, "It was a good day." Say it out loud right now. It was a good day. Feel how your mouth moves without waiting for your brain to overthink. Now try another one. "I'm learning English every day." Say it immediately. "I'm learning English every day." Don't care about perfection, care about speed. Now one more. "I want to speak more naturally." Say it. "I want to speak more naturally." Notice something important. The more you speak without thinking, the more your brain stops blocking you. Now let's go one level deeper. I want you to answer this question in English right now without stopping. What are you doing today? Just speak. Even if it is simple, even if it is not perfect. Maybe you say, "I work today, I study English, I feel good." That is enough, because right now you are not studying English, you are using it. And that difference is everything. And if you felt even a small moment of flow just now, that is your real ability showing up, not your theory, not your knowledge, but your actual speaking potential being activated. And the more you repeat this kind of instant response practice, the more your brain learns one rule. English is not something I translate, it is something I respond with. And that is the exact moment fluency starts to become real, not in your head, but in your voice. So don't stop here. Take this feeling and bring it into your real life today, even if it is just one sentence, because one sentence spoken is worth more than hours of silent learning. Now, I want you to understand something very important, something that most learners never realize. The biggest thing holding you back is not English. It is the way you see yourself when you try to speak English, because every time you hesitate, every time you freeze, every time you translate in your head, you are not actually facing a language problem. You are facing a mindset problem, a fear-based reaction that has been trained over years of trying to be perfect, trying not to make mistakes, trying to sound correct instead of trying to communicate. And that is why speaking feels so heavy for you, because you are carrying pressure that should not exist in real communication. In real life, nobody speaks perfectly. Native speakers don't stop to think about grammar. They don't translate in their head, they just respond. And that is exactly what you need to relearn. You need to stop identifying as someone who must be correct and start identifying as someone who must respond, because communication is not about perfection, it is about connection. And the moment you shift that identity, everything becomes easier, because now mistakes are no longer failures. They are part of the process. They are proof that you are actually speaking. And every time you speak despite fear, despite hesitation, despite imperfection, you are training your brain to accept a new reality, a reality where English is not something you prepare for, but something you use in real time. And this is where real change happens, not when you learn more information, but when you change how you behave under pressure. And that is why even simple daily actions like shadowing, repeating, reacting, and speaking out loud are so powerful, because they force you to act before your fear can stop you. And over time, your brain learns a new pattern. Speak first, think less. And that is the foundation of fluency. Not knowledge, not theory, but repeated action that rewires your response system. So from today onward, I want you to stop asking, "Is this correct?" and start asking, "Did I respond?" Because that one shift will completely change your relationship with English. And once you live in that mindset consistently, speaking will stop feeling like a test and start feeling like a natural extension of who you are becoming. Someone who doesn't wait, someone who responds, someone who speaks in real life without fear holding them back. Now we reach the most important moment of this entire video, because understanding is not enough anymore, and motivation is not enough anymore. What matters now is whether you are willing to actually change what you do every single day, because everything you have heard so far will mean nothing if you go back to your old habits. So here is your challenge, and I want you to take this seriously, not as an idea, but as a commitment. For the next 7 days, you are going to do something very simple but very powerful. Every single day, you will choose just one short English sentence, and you will train it using shadowing. You will listen and repeat immediately, without pause, without translation, without thinking, just reaction, and you will do it for at least 5 minutes a day. That is it. No complicated schedule, no pressure, just consistent action. And the second part of the challenge is even more important. You must use at least one of those sentences in real life or in a simulated situation every day. Speak it out loud, record yourself, or use it in a real conversation, because if you only practice in your head, nothing will change. But if you bring it into real speech, your brain starts building real fluency connections, and here is the rule you must follow. Do not wait to feel ready. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Do not wait for motivation, because those are exactly the reasons you have stayed stuck until now. Instead, every time you feel hesitation, that is your signal to speak, not to stop. And if you do this for 7 days consistently, something will start to shift. You will notice you are thinking less before speaking. You will notice you are reacting faster. You will notice you are freezing less often, and most importantly, you will start to feel something new, real speaking ability starting to form inside you, not from theory, but from action. And that is the entire point of this system. To move you from understanding English to actually using English in real time, so take this challenge seriously. Because this is the moment where everything either changes or stays the same, and the only difference is what you choose to do after this video ends. If you are ready, don't just think about it. Start today, not tomorrow, today. Now this is the final moment, and I want you to understand something very clearly, not emotionally, but deeply. Everything you have learned in this video will only matter if you decide to act differently. Starting right now. Because the truth is, you have seen this kind of content before. You have felt motivated before. You have understood methods before. But nothing changed, because understanding is not the same as action, and action is the only thing that rewires your brain. So right now, I don't want you to think more. I don't want you to analyze anything. I don't want you to wait until tomorrow. I want you to break the pattern immediately, because the old version of you always waits, always hesitates, always says, I will start later. But the new version of you acts immediately, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it is imperfect, even when it is small. So here is what I want you to do right now. Not after the video, not later today. Right now. I want you to say one simple English sentence out loud, any sentence you remember from this video. It doesn't matter if it is perfect. It doesn't matter if it is correct. What matters is that you speak. Because that one action is more powerful than all the information you just heard. It is the moment you stop being passive and start being active. And if you do it even once, you will feel something different, a small shift inside you, the feeling of, I can actually do this. And that feeling is the beginning of real fluency, not knowledge, not theory, but proof. Proof that you can respond, proof that you can speak. Proof that you are no longer stuck in silence, and from this moment forward, I want you to carry one simple rule in your mind every day. Don't ask, is this perfect? Ask, did I speak? Because speaking is the skill that changes everything, and every time you choose to speak instead of staying silent, you are rebuilding your identity as a speaker, not a learner. So don't end this video as someone who only understood it. End it as someone who used it, even once. Because that is how change starts, not with big decisions, but with one sentence spoken right now. So go ahead, say your sentence, break the silence, and step into the version of you that no longer waits to speak, but speaks to learn, speaks to grow, and speaks to finally become fluent in real life. And now, if you are still here, I want you to take a moment and realize something very important. You didn't just watch another English lesson. You didn't just learn another method. You just stepped into a completely different way of thinking about speaking. Because the real change was never about English itself. It was always about how you approach it every single day. And if you remember only one thing from everything we went through, remember this: fluency is not built in one big moment. It is built in small daily actions that slowly change who you are. And that is why these 10 things are not just tasks. They are identity builders. Every time you speak a sentence without translating, every time you shadow a voice instead of analyzing it, every time you respond instead of freezing, you are not just practicing English. You are becoming someone who uses English naturally in real life. And over time, those small actions stop feeling like effort and start feeling like instinct. And that is the moment you know you are changing. Not because you feel confident all the time, but because you no longer stay silent when you have something to say. And this is the real goal: not perfect grammar, not perfect pronunciation, but the ability to respond in real situations without fear controlling you. So I want you to take this seriously, not as inspiration, but as a system you return to every day. Because if you keep showing up, even imperfectly, even briefly, even inconsistently at first, something will begin to shift inside your brain. Your reactions will become faster, your hesitation will become smaller, your voice will become more natural, and one day you will notice that you are no longer translating at all. You are simply speaking. And in that moment you will realize that you were never bad at English. You were just untrained in speaking it. And now you are training it correctly. So don't end this here. Don't close it and forget it. Carry it with you. Use it today, use it tomorrow, and keep building the version of yourself who no longer fears speaking, but uses speaking as a normal part of life. And when that becomes your new reality, you will finally understand that fluency was never something you were waiting for. It was something you were building all along, one sentence at a time. In summary, today's video covers 10 things you need to practice every day, including answering simple, everyday conversational questions, quickly imitating short sentences, repeating native phrases without translating, turning a sentence into many practical variations, talking about your day in simple English, practicing quick Q&A sessions, recording short 30-second speeches without stopping, correcting minor errors and repeating, using at least one learned sentence in real life, and reflecting in English for 1 minute. If this helps you better understand practical communication, you can support the channel by liking and subscribing. That really helps me create more practical English content like this for you. Thank you for watching and keep practicing every day.